Hi everyone, this is Reed McCollum with Postcards to Swing States. I'm going to go over the mailing dates for our postcard program. If you see suggestions to ignore our mailing dates and do something different, on social media or from a friend, please ignore those suggestions. Stick to our mailing dates, and better yet, post this video so that others don't fall victim to bad advice. So first, I want to be clear that our mailing dates apply to our postcard program. There are other programs with different strategies and goals. You should always follow the guidance of the specific program that you're doing. These are the postcards for our program. Just as a reminder, if you recognize these designs, that's our program. We're Postcards to Swing States, which is part of Progressive Turnout Project. Okay, here's the key information. Please follow the mailing dates that came with the instructions and the voter lists with your specific postcards. There are multiple mailing dates. That's really important. There's not just a single mailing date for each state. We are sending multiple postcards to the same households to maximize the boosted Democratic turnout. So other people writing to the same state that you're writing to in our program might have a different mailing date. If you mail the postcards earlier than the date on your instructions, your postcards will be less effective at boosting turnout. So please don't do that. Finally, we closely monitor the Postal Service delivery times, which I'll explain in just a moment. All right, so what is this? These are the mailing dates for our program for every state and U.S. House districts. With the exception of Florida and Texas, we're sending 3 postcards to almost all of the target households. The first mailing date is either October 11th, 15th, or 17th, depending on the particular state. This early postcard is timed to boost early in-person voting. In some states, there would be time for voters to still request a mail-in ballot, but sending the postcards sooner to give them more time to request a mail-in ballot would make the postcards overall less effective for our program. Every target household will get a postcard mailed on October 24th. Um, if that's your mailing date and you send your postcards earlier, they will be less effective and they will arrive on top of the earlier postcards. Finally, most target households will get a postcard mailed between October 26th and the 29th, depending on how far away from you the target state is. October 29th is 1 week before Election Day. We want those postcards to arrive very close to Election Day to boost turnout amongst people that will either vote on Election Day or not at all. Okay, let's talk about Postal Service delivery times. You probably know somebody who has an anecdote or a story about someone who didn't get a letter or postcard for weeks, and it can happen. But you may not know that the Postal Service delivery times are closely tracked and reported online. On average, postcards this last month in August took on average 2.6 business days to deliver. The performance standard for first class mail, which includes our postcards, is 5 business days, meaning they want the postcards to arrive within 5 days. Right now, again, the average delivery time is 2.6 days. 84% of postcards arrive within 5 business days right now, and 94% of them arrive by the 6th day. So again, 94% of postcards arrive within 6 business days. Our October 24th mailing date is 10 business days before Election Day. The average postcard will arrive on October 26th or on that following Monday, October 28th. 94% of them will arrive by Halloween, October 31st. That's still 4 business days before the election. Our October 26th to 29th mailing date is 6 business days before Election Day. The average postcard will arrive around October 30th or 31st. The ideal time for that final postcard to arrive, again, that its goal is to boost turnout on Election Day, the ideal time for that final postcard would actually be to arrive on November 2nd or 4th, that final Saturday or the Monday before Election Day. And again, most of them are going to arrive several days before that, even for that final wave. So that most of these final postcards arrive when we want them to. There will be about 3% of postcards for that final mailing wave that could arrive after Election Day. But moving up that final mailing to make the other 97% would be less effective. So for that very last mailing wave, there will be a very small percentage of postcards that don't arrive on time, but that overall mailing wave will be most effective if you stick to all of our mailing dates. All right, you might be thinking that national averages are one thing, and maybe you're mailing from across the country, or there are certain regions like Georgia that have really bad delivery times right now. So let's look at a specific example. And by the way, you can actually go to this online dashboard and look up any scenario you'd like to explore. All of the delivery information is tracked and reported. So this shows delivery from Marin County, California, outside of Marin County, all the way to Decatur, Georgia, outside of Atlanta. The average delivery time for postcards from that part of California to Georgia in August was 3.7 days, so about a delay slower. And 93.8% of postcards were delivered within 6 days. So even for our very last mailing wave, almost 94% would arrive on time, and the average is just, instead of 2.6 days, 3.7 for mailing from all the way across this country from California to an area that has notoriously slow mail in Georgia. 3.7 days on average. Okay, but you might be asking, don't delivery times slow down dramatically around the election, either because of volumes being really high or just nefarious intentions from DeJoy? Here are the delivery times for the midterms last November in 2022, month of November. Um, they were nearly identical to August of this year. So we can go back in time and see what happens to mail delivery around the election, and it is equivalent. So there is a real, important consequence for slightly slower mail delivery for people that are waiting on mail ballots or returning their mail ballots. But our postcard program is, we add more dates or more flexibility around our mailing dates. So, mail delivery is an issue for people that are voting by mail, especially right before the deadline, or requesting a mail ballot right before the deadline. But for our postcard program, it's just not a problem. All right, the last topic I'll cover are all of the questions that start with "but what about?" So I can't possibly address every reason that someone might be motivated to ignore the data and expertise that go into our strategy. As a general rule, if you question our guidance, just please consider what basis you have for thinking that you know better. Do you closely follow mobilization mail research that's published on the Analyst Institute? Do you work professionally as a political mail vendor? Or did someone on Facebook listen to a podcast about a totally different topic related to the elections, and then just suggested that everybody should ignore, instructions of when to mail postcards through our program and others, even though the experts, on that podcast were talking about something totally unrelated and didn't give any such specific advice. So, first topic is, but what about voter purges? Voter purges are a very real problem. Our postcards are not an effective solution to combat them. Mailing our cards early or changing the message to our target voters will not help fight voter purges. So please don't ruin the value of your effort to write our postcards just because that is a legitimate issue. Our postcards are not a solution to that problem. What about the fact that mail ballots will get sent out before our postcards arrive? So you're concerned that mail ballots are getting sent out already well before our postcards arrive. In some states, it's like most voters or every registered voter that's getting them. That actually has just like nothing to do with the timing or the effectiveness of our program. So our postcards are effective for people that weren't going to vote without that postcard. So they're a get out the vote postcard. So the fact that everybody's getting a mail ballot is neither here nor there. Our mailing dates are timed to add the most additional votes from people. And so it's just, yes, that's factored into our mailing dates, the fact that some people are getting mailed ballots. All right, what about giving voters as much time as possible to request a mail-in ballot? So my answer to that is that our earliest mailing dates are timed to boost early in-person voting in most states. which is more effective than mailing our postcards to try to give people more time to request or mail a ballot. If there is a window where we can mail our postcards to boost early in-person voting, where they will still have enough time to request a mail ballot, we opted for that, so that we tried to strike that balance so that people ideally could have both options available to them by the time the postcard arrives. But if we have to pick one or the other, we went with boosting early in-person voting, which is a much more effective way to boost turnout through something like a handwritten postcard. Otherwise, you'd really want to send either an explicit message about mail voting or ideally a mail ballot request form to the voter in question. And then finally, why not mail the cards early enough that almost none of them might arrive after Election Day? Why not just guarantee that none of the postcards are going to arrive late? And the answer is because doing so would make all of your efforts less effective at boosting Democratic turnout. And that's our goal. So there is a huge cost to mailing postcards too early for our program. People procrastinate and they don't keep the postcards sitting around for a month. It'll either prompt them to take action pretty much within a day or two, or it's going to be in the recycling and they'll forget about it. And if you mail it a month before the election, which is October 5th or in September, you are just completely wasting your effort. These are not voter registration postcards. These are get out the vote postcards. We have a strategy. Stay calm, carry on, and please respect that we know what we're doing. There haven't been a change, and feel free to share this with other folks on Facebook groups where people are having all kinds of conversations. And thanks so much for what everybody's doing.